You've probably had those days when you felt like giving up. The days when everything seems too hard, and it would be so easy to just stop trying. Maybe you're facing a task that feels overwhelming, or you're not seeing the results you hoped for. It's in these moments, when you want to throw in the towel, that you have to make a choice: keep going or quit. The difference between those who reach their goals and those who don't isn't always about talent or luck. It's about the ability to push through when things get tough. It's about forcing yourself to keep going, even when everything inside you says to stop. This is where real growth happens. And it's not always easy, but it is always worth it. In this guide, we'll talk about how to build the mindset that will keep you going, even when you don't feel like it. We'll dive into the power of showing up every day, even when no one notices, and how to build a system that makes quitting feel impossible. This isn't about waiting for the perfect moment or relying on motivation that comes and goes. It's about making the decision to keep moving forward, no matter what. And trust me, when you build that kind of strength, there's no limit to what you can achieve. So if you're ready to stop making excuses, stop waiting for the perfect circumstances, and start pushing yourself to show up every day, keep reading. Because the key to long-term success isn't in waiting for things to get easier. It's in forcing yourself to keep going, even when it feels impossible. Chapter 1. Rise with discipline and prove you're stronger than comfort. There's a moment every morning that defines your life. It's the moment before you get out of bed, before your feet hit the floor, before the sun even knows you're awake. It's the moment where comfort whispers softly, offering another hour of sleep, another excuse to delay, another reason to stay exactly where you are. But if you want to build a life of strength, clarity, and control, you must rise with discipline. You must prove, every single morning, that you are stronger than comfort. Discipline is not just about doing the hard things. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't negotiate with weakness. Comfort is the enemy of progress because it convinces you to settle. It teaches you to seek ease before effort, pleasure before purpose. And when you choose comfort repeatedly, your life begins to shrink. You become reactive instead of intentional. You drift instead of drive. But discipline, daily, focused, painful discipline, does the opposite. It expands your capacity. It sharpens your focus. It builds a life that is not ruled by moods or external circumstances. When you choose to rise with discipline, you're not just getting up early, you're declaring that your feelings do not control you, that your purpose is stronger than your temporary urges, that you won't allow laziness to win today. This is the mindset that separates those who talk from those who live. It's the quiet strength behind every meaningful achievement. Success doesn't come to those who wait for the right mood. It comes to those who act regardless of it. The moment you open your eyes, a decision must be made, and that decision echoes throughout your entire day. Will you give in to what feels good now, or will you rise and do what your future self will thank you for? Because that's the real question. Are you willing to suffer now so that you can succeed later? Or will you choose ease now and regret it every time you look in the mirror? Discipline means rising even when you're tired, especially when you're tired. It means moving your body when it aches, keeping your word when no one else is watching, and doing the work when every part of you wants to walk away. Discipline means choosing consistency over intensity, structure over chaos, and responsibility over excuses. And most of all, it means showing up for yourself like your life depends on it, because it does. Your mind is constantly negotiating with you. It will always suggest the easier path. It will remind you how long the day is, how soft the bed feels, how hard the workout will be, or how nobody will know if you skip today. And if you don't develop the discipline to override that voice, you will live your life as a prisoner of your emotions. You can't build strength if you always avoid struggle. You can't create greatness if you only move when you feel like it. The people who make lasting change in their lives do not wait for permission. They don't wait to feel inspired. They wake up and force themselves into motion. Not because it's easy, not because it's convenient, but because they have decided that their life is worth the effort. They are not attached to how they feel in the moment. They are committed to what they said they would do. Every day, without negotiation. It all starts with that first choice. The choice to get up and begin. No matter how many times you've failed in the past. No matter how many days you've wasted. Discipline is built in the present, not in regret, not in planning, but in action. In showing up and doing the small things well, every single day. When you do that, something inside you shifts. You start to see yourself differently. You build trust with yourself. You begin to believe in your ability to keep going, even when everything in you wants to quit. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be relentless. Discipline is not about crushing every goal in a single day. It's about showing up, even when you don't see immediate results. It's about rising even after you've fallen. It's about proving to yourself that you are someone who finishes what you start, that you're no longer willing to break promises to yourself, that you're building something greater than comfort. Self-respect. Every time you rise with discipline, you are rewriting the story you tell yourself. You're telling yourself that you matter, that your goals matter, that your growth matters more than your short-term comfort. You are building the kind of resilience that can't be faked, the kind of mindset that doesn't panic when things get hard, the kind of character that doesn't flinch in the face of challenge. You will not find peace by doing nothing. You will not find purpose in comfort. Those things come from living with discipline, from working through resistance, from making yourself uncomfortable on purpose, so that you can become someone you're proud of. The life you want is hiding behind the habits you avoid. The progress you crave is buried under the routines you ignore. And the strength you seek will only show up after you force yourself to act, when everything in you says stop. It doesn't matter how long you've stayed in comfort. What matters is what you choose now. This moment, this hour, this day. You can decide to change the direction of your life by mastering one simple habit. Rise with discipline, wake up and move before the excuses begin. Take action before the doubt settles in, and then do it again tomorrow, and again the next day, because this is what it means to live with purpose. This is what it means to become unstoppable. If you keep waiting to feel ready, you'll waste your life. If you keep waiting for motivation, you'll keep missing opportunities. Discipline doesn't wait for motivation. It creates it. When you rise early, when you follow your routine, when you show up even when you don't want to, you begin to feel powerful. You start building momentum. And momentum is what separates the stuck from the successful. 1 hour of disciplined action is more powerful than 10 hours of planning. One moment of choosing progress over comfort can change your entire direction. If you do this long enough, you stop seeing discipline as a burden. You start seeing it as freedom, because it frees you from regret. It frees you from guilt. It frees you from the chaos that comes from a life without structure. People often think freedom means doing whatever you want, but real freedom comes from doing what you must. When you control your mornings, you begin to control your days. When you control your days, you begin to control your life. And that starts with discipline. Not once, but every day. Not when it's easy, but especially when it's not. Discipline sharpens your identity. It reminds you that you are not average, that you are not here to coast, that your life was not meant to be lived half-hearted. Discipline teaches you to lead yourself, to push yourself, to hold yourself to a higher standard, even when no one else does, even when no one else is watching, because you are not doing this for them, you are doing it for you, for the person you are becoming, for the life you are building. And yes, it will be hard, but that's the point. You are not supposed to feel ready. You are supposed to feel resistance. That's how you know you're doing something that matters. That's how you know you're on the edge of growth. Every time you rise with discipline, you are proving that you are willing to do what most people avoid. You are showing that you can lead yourself, that you can command your attention, that you can choose what's right over what's easy. This doesn't mean you won't fail. You will, but failure is not the end. It's part of the process. You get up, you adjust, you learn, and you keep going. That's what discipline does. It teaches you to keep going, not perfectly, but consistently, not flawlessly, but fiercely. Discipline is not about pushing yourself into burnout. It's about knowing what matters most and refusing to drift away from it. It's about becoming the kind of person who follows through, not out of pressure, but out of principle, because you've decided that your life deserves structure, that your goals deserve effort, that your days are too valuable to waste in comfort. And when you live like this long enough, you stop craving distractions. You stop chasing shortcuts. You stop needing external validation, because you're anchored from within. You've trained yourself to rise with purpose. You've learned how to move with intention. And that's when life begins to change. Not just on the outside, but deeply, internally. You start to trust yourself again. You stop avoiding challenges. You begin to enjoy the work, not because it's easy, but because it's yours. You're not escaping life anymore. You're building it, one disciplined action at a time. So tomorrow when the alarm goes off, and the bed feels warm and the room feels cold and your mind starts whispering reasons to wait, remember this: you are stronger than comfort. You are capable of more than you feel in that moment. And your future will be built by what you choose next. Rise with discipline. Move before your mind resists. Do what needs to be done. And prove to yourself again and again that you are not here to live a life of half effort. You are here to become someone unstoppable. And that journey begins the moment you decide to get up and fight for it. Chapter 2. Shut down the voice that tells you to wait. There is a voice in your head that sounds calm, rational, and even helpful. It tells you that now is not the right time. It tells you to wait until you feel better, until you're more prepared, until the fear goes away. This voice is not loud. It doesn't shout or panic. It simply waits for a moment of hesitation, and then it leans in and convinces you that later is better than now, that tomorrow is safer than today. That delay is wisdom, not weakness. That voice is the enemy of your future. It is the sound of comfort disguised as caution. It's not trying to protect you. It's trying to control you. And if you don't learn to shut it down, it will quietly ruin everything you want to build. That voice lives in all of us. It's built into our biology. It's the survival instinct that wants you to stay safe, avoid risk, and preserve energy. But the problem is, you're not in survival mode. You're not being chased by danger. You're not in a life or death situation. You're in a battle between two parts of yourself, the part that wants growth and the part that wants ease. If you're serious about progress, you have to silence the voice that keeps whispering, wait. Because that voice is the reason you didn't start when you said you would. It's the reason you keep researching instead of acting. It's the reason your dreams live in notebooks and not in reality. And every time you listen to it, you strengthen the habit of hesitation. You train your mind to delay action. And the more you delay, the more distant your goals become. The dangerous part is how convincing the voice can be. It tells you that you're just being smart, that you need to rest, that you'll do it better if you wait until next week. But all it's doing is creating a false sense of comfort, while time slips through your fingers. You don't need more time. You need more courage. You don't need to feel ready. You need to take control. The truth is, the longer you wait, the heavier the task becomes. The more you hesitate, the harder it is to start. Waiting never makes the work easier. It only gives fear more time to grow. It allows self-doubt to multiply. And what could have taken one step turns into a mountain you can't climb. Action is the only way to shrink fear. Movement is the only way to silence doubt. And starting, even when you're unsure, is the only way to gain clarity. You can't think your way into confidence. You have to earn it. And the only way to earn it is by doing the things you're trying to avoid. There's nothing noble about waiting. Procrastination is not preparation. It's the slow erosion of your potential. Every time you say, "I'll do it later," you are handing over power to your weakest self. You are reinforcing a cycle that will always pull you back into inaction. You must become ruthless with hesitation. When the voice says wait, you act. When it says think about it, you move. When it says maybe later, you say now. That's how you change your relationship with fear. That's how you train your brain to obey your vision instead of your impulses. You don't need to feel motivated. You need to build a pattern. The people who succeed don't feel like doing the hard thing either. But they've built a habit of ignoring the voice that says stop. They've built internal momentum. And once you have that, hesitation loses its grip. You don't have to move fast, but you do have to move now. Even the smallest step in the right direction dismantles the illusion that you need more time. You don't. You just need more action. That first step will unlock the second, and the second leads to the third. That's how change happens, by starting before you feel ready. There is no perfect moment coming. There is no ideal mood that will land in your lap. Waiting is just a delay of the inevitable. If you want to change your life, you do it by interrupting the pattern of delay. You stop reasoning with your doubts. You stop entertaining your fears. You start acting like your goals are non-negotiable. If you keep listening to the voice that tells you to wait, you will wake up one day with a list of things you should have done. A life of almosts and maybes and intentions that never became actions. That is the cost of delay. And it's a cost far greater than the discomfort of doing the thing now. The moment you hear that voice, you have to recognize it for what it is, an internal trap. It's not telling you the truth. It's protecting your old identity. It's trying to keep you in the known, even if that known is miserable, average or stagnant. But you were not born to be average. You were not built to stay in place. You were given a mind, a will and a body to move through resistance, not surrender to it. The next time you catch yourself waiting for the right moment, interrupt the thought. Break the cycle. Force your body to move. Turn on the cold water and step in. Open the book and read one page. Start the workout and do the first rep. Make the call. Send the message. Take the first bite of the task. Once you're in motion, the resistance will weaken. Once you're doing the work, the voice will quiet down. But you have to go first. Action must lead emotion. Don't give yourself time to debate. Act before you explain. Move before you justify. There is no logic in delay that can improve your future. The longer you argue with yourself, the more likely you are to lose. Because the mind is clever, it will always come up with reasons to stay still. Your job is to overpower that instinct with execution. You can't negotiate with excuses. You must starve them. You must treat hesitation as a threat. Because it is. It is the slow poison that looks harmless. It's a gentle whisper, but it leads to wasted potential. So don't give it air. Don't give it space. Shut it down at the first sign. The person who takes immediate action, despite the discomfort, builds a reputation with themselves. They learn that action is not something to fear. They discover how fast momentum can build once it's triggered. And over time they stop waiting. They start expecting discomfort, and they face it head on. That's how you build trust in yourself. That's how you become dependable to your own goals. Everything you want is on the other side of now. Not later, not someday, not after the fear fades. Now. The moment you feel the urge to wait is the exact moment you must act. That tension is the signal. That resistance is the trigger. It means you're on the edge of growth, and your only job is to push forward. Don't ask yourself if you feel like doing it. Ask yourself who you want to be. The person who delays, or the person who does. The person who hesitates, or the person who takes command. Because in the end, every decision is a vote for your future. Every time you shut down the voice that says wait, you cast a vote for strength, for momentum, for discipline. You don't need to make giant leaps. You just need to break the loop. The loop that says tomorrow. The loop that waits for permission. Once you disrupt it, everything changes. You begin to show yourself what's possible. You learn that fear shrinks with movement. That doubt fades in progress. That clarity follows commitment. And then you get addicted, not to the result, but to the act of showing up, to the feeling of moving through fear, to the power of shutting down the lies your mind used to tell you. This is what self-mastery looks like. It's not perfect. It's not easy, but it's real. And it's available to you every day. This is not about working harder. It's about living sharper. It's about refusing to waste another minute waiting for the right conditions. You create those conditions with your choices. You set the tone of your day with your actions. You build your future by doing what needs to be done. Now, every time the voice tells you to wait, see it as a test. A moment to prove you are no longer ruled by fear, that you are no longer delaying your potential, that you have chosen to move, to grow, to act. And once you pass that test a few times, it gets easier. The voice gets quieter, the hesitation fades, and all that's left is the work and the power that comes from owning it. There is no secret trick, just the decision to stop waiting. Just the courage to start where you are. No matter how messy, no matter how small, you build confidence by doing. You build strength by moving. You shut down the voice that tells you to wait by refusing to obey it. And the more you do this, the more momentum you gain, the more discipline you develop, and discipline becomes your edge. It becomes the tool you use to shape your days, your habits, your outcomes. Not because it's easy, but because you've made a decision to stop letting fear choose for you. You're not here to delay. You're here to rise. You're here to become more than your excuses. To move forward before you feel ready. To shut down the voice that says not now, and replace it with this is the moment. Because this is the moment. It's always been the moment. And the rest of your life is waiting on what you do next. Chapter 3. Take one bold step while your mind screams stop. There comes a moment that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with a sign, a warm-up, or a warning. It comes in the quiet when everything inside you tells you to stop. Not just slow down, but freeze. Your body tenses, your heart races. Your thoughts become loud and chaotic. The fear hits you in waves, convincing you that what you're about to do is too much, too fast, too soon. That's the moment. That's the exact second when you're being asked one question: will you step forward anyway? Fear isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it shows up in the smallest hesitation before you speak your truth. Sometimes it lingers in the doubt right before you hit send, or when your hand hovers over the door handle before walking into something unfamiliar. Your mind will scream at you to retreat, to go back to what's familiar, to stay inside the bubble of what feels manageable. But growth does not exist in that place. It lives right outside the line your fear draws for you. That one bold step, taken when every cell in your body wants to shut down, is where you meet your real self. The self who is capable of more than you've ever proven. The self who doesn't wait to feel brave to act, but acts to become brave. It's in that step that everything changes. Not instantly, but undeniably. There's a reason your mind resists bold action. It's not because you're weak. It's because the unknown threatens the mind's desire for control. Boldness disrupts the predictable. It challenges everything you've built around safety. And so your brain does what it was built to do. It throws up walls. It screams, not because something bad will happen, but because something new might happen. And that's what terrifies the ego: change without permission. But real strength is built on the edge of discomfort. Not in the smooth comfort of certainty, but in the pressure of risk. That one bold move becomes a turning point, not because of the outcome, but because of what it says about who you are becoming. It sends a message to your mind that you are not controlled by its fears, that you are willing to face resistance, not avoid it. And make no mistake, your mind will fight you. It will bring up every past failure, every rejection, every scar you carry. It will remind you of how bad it felt the last time you tried something hard. It will lie to you with convincing detail, all in an effort to protect its idea of who you are. But you don't owe your old self anything. You're not here to stay the same. You're here to evolve. That's why one bold step matters more than 100 small intentions. Because it forces your nervous system to adapt. It shocks the system into growth. And you'll feel it. The internal resistance will flare up. You might feel your legs shake, your breath shorten, your mind panic. That's the sign you're exactly where you need to be. That's the doorway into a new level of self-respect. Boldness isn't arrogance. It's alignment with your potential. It's doing what's difficult, not because it's guaranteed, but because it's necessary. It's choosing progress over perfection, effort over ease, and movement over stillness. And every time you make that choice, even if the result is messy or incomplete, you expand your courage. You train your body and mind to stop fearing action. Most people never build this habit. They think they need certainty before they move. But the truth is, you create certainty by moving. You build clarity by doing. Waiting for confidence is like waiting for muscles to grow without lifting anything. It doesn't work that way. You get strong by choosing to act while you're still afraid. That means you don't wait to feel ready. You don't ask for permission from your feelings. You acknowledge the fear, then you act anyway. And that anyway is everything. It's the difference between staying stuck and building momentum. One bold move can change the direction of your entire day. One moment of courage can reset the tone of your life. And you don't need to leap a mile. Boldness doesn't always mean grand gestures. Sometimes it means speaking up when you usually stay silent. Sometimes it means showing up when you'd rather hide. Sometimes it's as simple as refusing to back down when you've always given up. It's not about the size of the action. It's about the defiance of fear. You build this muscle by using it. You practice boldness in small moments, so when big moments come, you're already trained to act. You stop rehearsing your failures in your head and start rehearsing your resilience. You shift your focus from what might go wrong to what will happen if you never try. And once you've done that enough times, a new version of you begins to surface, one who doesn't flinch at pressure, one who leans into the edge. This isn't about recklessness, it's about responsibility for your own growth. You cannot evolve while playing safe. You cannot break patterns while staying in the exact behaviors that built them. Something has to disrupt your rhythm, and that disruption begins with one bold step. In that moment when the fear feels louder than your logic, remind yourself why it matters. Remind yourself what's on the other side of action. You're not just stepping into discomfort. You're stepping into possibility, into strength, into ownership of your life. You've spent enough time shrinking yourself to fit into comfort. Enough days pretending that hesitation is wisdom. The real truth is this: fear will always exist, but you don't have to obey it. It's a reaction, not a rule. A signal, not a sentence. And every time you step forward anyway, you prove that fear doesn't get the final word. And here's the thing, you don't even need to win. You just need to move. Boldness isn't about success. It's about defiance. It's about breaking the grip of comfort, if only for a moment, and proving to yourself that you're capable of acting with courage. The win is in the action, not the outcome. Over time, something incredible starts to happen. Your mind still resists, but your body no longer listens. You begin to override your internal doubt with forward motion. You start acting while your old habits scream to stop. And that's how you become unstoppable. Not because you don't feel fear, but because you've trained yourself to act in spite of it. You will never be fearless. That's not the goal. The goal is to become familiar with fear and still move with integrity. To feel it rise and keep walking forward. To use it as a signal that you're on the edge of something worthwhile. That's how you know you're growing. When the urge to stop is met with the strength to take one more step. No one will do this for you. There is no mentor, no coach, no program that can make this decision on your behalf. You must choose to act when it's the last thing you feel like doing. You must develop the inner toughness to take control in the middle of chaos. This isn't about waiting for life to calm down. It's about building the ability to move through the storm. And when you do, you'll find out something surprising: your fear was overinflated. It wasn't the danger you thought it was. It was just noise. Static. A test of willpower. And on the other side of it, more confidence than any pep talk could give you. More pride than any achievement could provide. Because you earned it. You faced the resistance and still chose movement. This is how you change your identity. Not with affirmations or ideas, but with decisive action in the face of resistance. Each time you act boldly, you send a new message to your subconscious. This is who I am now. And over time, that message becomes your truth. Not just something you believe, but something you embody. You become someone who doesn't wait for permission. Someone who doesn't delay purpose. Someone who doesn't let discomfort decide the direction of your life. You become someone who moves, who acts, who chooses growth, no matter how loud the fear is. That is your power. And it's always one decision away. When your mind screams stop, take the step. Not because it's easy, but because it's the only way to live a life worth remembering. Chapter 4. Master physical effort to build mental domination fast. There's something deeply primal about effort. Not effort for applause or validation, but raw, silent effort that grinds through resistance without looking for a reward. This is the type of effort that builds something more valuable than muscle. It builds self-respect. It forges discipline. It develops a mind that knows how to dominate itself. And the fastest way to construct that kind of mind is through physical effort, through demanding, uncomfortable, consistent physical struggle that forces you to push past limits you didn't even know were there. You cannot talk your way into mental toughness. You must prove it through action. And physical exertion is the perfect training ground. The weights don't lie. The run won't wait. The cold doesn't care about your mood. These are not things you can negotiate with. They don't respond to excuses. They give you exactly what you've earned. That's what makes them powerful. When you willingly subject yourself to these tests, something fundamental starts to change. You begin to take back control from the voice in your head that has spent years making you weak. Because that voice, let's be honest, has tricked you before. It tells you to rest when you're not tired. It convinces you that tomorrow is just as good as today. It justifies slacking by dressing it up as recovery. But deep down, you know when you're avoiding the work. You feel it. And the only way to kill that voice is to stop feeding it. That means choosing effort over ease, day after day, until your actions speak louder than your doubts. When you train your body, you're not just sweating. You're demonstrating to yourself that you can do hard things, that you can endure discomfort and stay present, that you can be exhausted and still keep moving. And that mindset, once developed physically, begins to bleed into every other area of your life. Suddenly, difficult conversations aren't as overwhelming. Long days don't feel like burdens. You start attacking problems instead of avoiding them. Why? Because you've conditioned your mind to respond with action, not avoidance. Most people think mental strength is built in moments of reflection. It isn't. It's built in the arena. It's forged in reps, miles, rounds, and early mornings. It's shaped by the sweat that drips when nobody is watching. Because when the body is screaming and you keep going, you send a very clear message to your brain: we don't quit when it hurts. That's the mental edge you're building. You're teaching yourself that feelings are not facts. Just because your legs are burning doesn't mean you're done. Just because your breath is short doesn't mean you stop. Just because your mind is uncomfortable doesn't mean you retreat. That separation, the ability to feel discomfort and continue anyway, is the definition of mental domination. And it comes fast when you use your physical effort as the training ground. It's easy to say you want to be mentally strong. Everyone says that. But when you're 5 rounds in, lungs on fire, hands shaking, and your muscles begging for mercy, that's where the truth shows up. That's the moment that defines you. Most people back off. They compromise. They cut the last set, shave off the last rep, walk instead of run, and every time they do that, they teach their mind one thing: quitting is an option. They train themselves to break when it's hard. They teach weakness as a habit. But not you. You are training for something different. You are choosing to push beyond the point where the average person gives up. Because you're not just training to look good. You're training to become unshakable. You're sculpting a mind that doesn't collapse when life gets hard. And the way you do that is simple. You finish what you start, even when it burns. There's a reason military units use physical training to break and rebuild people. It's not just about fitness. It's about finding the line where your comfort ends and deciding to keep going anyway. That's the breaking point most people run from. But if you stay in it long enough, something powerful happens. You stop breaking. You stop folding. You start finding gears inside yourself that you didn't even know existed. And you begin to realize something. The limit was never real. It was mental. It was created by years of avoiding hard things. The gym, the track, the mat, the hill, these are your laboratories for transformation. They are where you become the kind of person who doesn't hesitate, who doesn't wait for motivation, who doesn't need someone to clap for them. Every rep is a declaration, I control myself. Every round is a battle won against the part of you that wants to coast. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, you reclaim more territory inside your own mind. It's not about how much you lift or how far you run. It's about the principle that when resistance comes, you face it. When pain arrives, you accept it. When fatigue creeps in, you confront it with effort, not excuses. This is the mentality that separates the disciplined from the comfortable, the sharp from the soft, the dangerous from the dull. And it doesn't take decades. You can feel the shift in weeks. Start with one commitment, something simple but challenging. Maybe it's waking up an hour earlier and training before the day starts. Maybe it's doing a daily workout, no matter how tired you are. Maybe it's hitting the cold shower and refusing to flinch. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it's consistent, demanding, and non-negotiable. Soon your identity begins to shift. You stop calling yourself tired. You stop labeling yourself weak. You start seeing yourself as someone who gets it done, no matter the mood, no matter the weather, no matter the circumstance. That self-image, it's more powerful than any goal. Because once you see yourself as a finisher, as a fighter, as someone who keeps promises to themselves, your life starts to bend in your favor. And yes, it's going to hurt. It's going to test you. But that's the whole point. Comfort never taught you anything. It never built anything inside you that could handle the real battles of life. But effort, sustained, demanding effort, builds a kind of clarity and calm that no book or seminar can give you. It builds inner order. Because when you've trained your body to suffer well, your mind doesn't panic under pressure. You'll start to notice it when others around you complain and crumble, and you just keep moving. When they make excuses, you make progress. When they talk about what they could do, you're already doing it. That's what happens when you've trained hard. You stop fearing challenge. You welcome it. You seek it. You use it to sharpen your edge. This doesn't mean you destroy yourself. It means you choose difficulty with intention. You train smart, but you don't hide behind comfort. You understand that the harder the physical battle, the stronger your mental armor becomes. And that armor, you'll need it, not just in training but in life, in business, in relationships, in moments when everything feels like it's falling apart and you have to be the one who stays composed. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop trying to psych yourself up. Just move, just train, just sweat, just ren. Let your body teach your mind what discipline really means. Let your breathlessness be the lesson. Let the pain be the proof that you're building something unshakable. The fastest way to become mentally tough is to put your body through hard things daily. There's no shortcut, no hack, no cheat code. It's effort, repeated until it becomes your normal. And once that becomes your standard, everything in your life starts to elevate. Because now when your mind whispers, I can't, your body responds with, watch me. You become the kind of person who faces fear with calm, who walks into discomfort and doesn't blink, who doesn't need perfect conditions to make progress. That's who you're training to become. Not just fit, not just strong, but sharp, focused, unstoppable. And it all starts with effort. Master it, and nothing can hold you back. Chapter 5. Use your inner voice as a weapon, not a weakness. Most people are fighting battles with the world, but the real war is inside their own head. That voice that speaks when no one else is around, that silent narration running constantly in the background, that's where your future is shaped. Your inner voice is the most powerful influence over your decisions, your emotions, your actions, and ultimately your identity. It can become your greatest weapon or your worst weakness. And most people never even realize that they have the power to choose which one it becomes. You've heard it before, that voice that tells you to stop, that whispers doubts at the worst possible moment, that floods your mind with reasons to hesitate, to play it safe, to lower your standards. That's the voice that destroys dreams before they ever get started. It sounds reasonable, but it's poisonous. It wears the disguise of caution, but it's fear. It speaks softly, but it kills progress silently. And if you don't take control of it, it will own you. The people who win in life aren't the ones who silence their inner voice. They're the ones who train it. They weaponize it. They turn that internal dialogue into something that serves them instead of sabotaging them. It starts by understanding one critical truth. Your inner voice will repeat whatever you feed it. If you constantly tell yourself you're not ready, not good enough, not talented, not disciplined, not lucky, you will start to believe it. And once you believe it, it becomes your reality. You'll act like it's true. You'll look for proof. You'll create a life that reflects the lie you've accepted. That's why the first step is responsibility. You must own what you tell yourself. No more passive thinking, no more letting your mind run wild without direction. Your thoughts need leadership. They need structure. They need commands. You are not a victim of your thoughts. You are the commander. You don't wait to feel confident. You speak to yourself like someone who refuses to lose. You don't ask for reassurance from the outside world. You build it internally through repetition and consistency. You train your inner voice to be a coach, not a critic. That means replacing weak language with strong language. Stop saying "I hope" and start saying "I will." Replace "maybe I can" with "I'm going to." Eliminate every phrase that gives your mind an escape route. You don't need mental comfort. You need clarity. You need precision. Your inner voice should be speaking to you the same way a warrior prepares for battle, not with fear, but with fire. Not with hesitation, but with certainty. Because here's the truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your self-talk. It's your inner voice that shows up when you're tired. It's what keeps you in motion when results are delayed. It's the only thing that's with you every second of every day. If that voice is negative, critical, fearful, and doubtful, how do you expect to build a strong life? You can't outrun a weak mindset. You can't achieve greatness with a voice in your head that's constantly tearing you down. But the moment you flip the script, everything begins to shift. Your inner voice becomes your personal armory. It reminds you who you are when the world tries to make you forget. It gives you instructions when your emotions are screaming chaos. It becomes your strategy in pressure, your calm in the storm, your focus in the chaos. And you get to decide how strong it becomes. You get to feed it daily, shape it, and sharpen it. Start simple. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you step into the noise of the day, talk to yourself with purpose. Tell yourself who you are. Tell yourself what matters. Set your mental tone intentionally. If you let the world write your thoughts, you'll be thinking like a follower. But if you write your own internal script, you start thinking like a leader. That's what turns your inner voice into a weapon. It stops being reactive and starts being directive. It leads. It commands. It doesn't ask for permission. You don't need more motivation. You need a disciplined voice in your mind that shows up when it's hard. A voice that says show up anyway. A voice that says do it now. A voice that says this is what we do. That's how you build identity. Through repetition. Through aligning action with mindset. Through refusing to entertain weak thoughts just because they appear. You are not your thoughts. You are what you do with them. And yes, it takes work. You've been listening to a weak voice for years. You've built habits around that voice. You've made decisions through its lens. But every day is a chance to start building a new one. One repetition at a time. One moment at a time. One refusal to back down when it would have been easy. That's how a new voice is born. That's how it gains strength. That's how it becomes your advantage. The strong don't have perfect days. They have strong inner dialogue on the imperfect ones. They have self-talk that refuses to accept less than full effort. They don't allow feelings to dictate standards. They let their inner voice remind them of what they've committed to. And that voice gets louder, the more they act on it. Every time you keep your word to yourself, your inner voice gains credibility. Every time you push through when it's uncomfortable, it becomes more trustworthy. And eventually, it stops asking if you're going to show up. It starts expecting it. When your inner voice becomes your ally, it turns pressure into power. You no longer crumble under the weight of expectations. You rise, because your mind doesn't betray you anymore. It supports you. It builds you. It tells you the truth. Not the easy truth, but the one that strengthens you. That voice says, you've done this before, you'll do it again. That voice says, you were built for this. That voice says, it's time to move, not time to question. The world will always give you reasons to doubt yourself. That's not going away. But when your inner voice is louder than the noise outside, you become untouchable. That's what mental strength is. It's not being immune to fear. It's being louder than it. It's being faster than it. It's deciding that your voice gets the final say. And your voice, when trained, becomes your compass, your fuel, your edge. This is why discipline matters. Not just in action, but in thought. You must discipline your thinking the way a soldier disciplines their movements. Clean, sharp, focused, direct. No wasted energy, no sloppy commands. You don't talk to yourself like a victim. You talk to yourself like a champion, even when the results aren't there yet. Especially then, because that's when it matters most. When your mind wants to spiral, your voice must stabilize. When everything feels uncertain, your voice becomes the only certainty. It's not about lying to yourself. It's about leading yourself. It's about telling the truth from a position of strength. The truth that you've done hard things before. The truth that pain is temporary. The truth that hesitation has never brought you peace. Only action does. That's the kind of voice that changes lives. That's the kind of voice that walks into challenges with a calm face and steady hands. You get to choose. You can keep using your inner voice as a weapon against yourself, cutting into your confidence, damaging your momentum, making every step heavier than it needs to be. Or you can sharpen it and use it as your tool to dominate the moment. Either way, it's speaking. You better decide if it's working for you or against you. Because nothing else matters if the voice inside your head is the loudest enemy in your life. Don't wait for the voice to fix itself. It won't. You fix it by showing up. You fix it by acting in spite of it. You fix it by becoming someone who moves with power, who speaks with intention, who thinks with clarity. Your inner voice can become the most dangerous weapon in your arsenal, but only if you take the time to forge it, strengthen it, and command it. The world is loud. Doubt is everywhere. You don't need more of it inside your mind. You need focus, fire, precision. You need your voice to speak like a warrior, because when it does, there is nothing you can't handle. Chapter 6. Confront the truth of your effort without filters. You cannot escape the truth of your effort. It's always there, staring you in the face, whether you choose to see it or not. The truth of what you've done, of how much you've put into your work, your goals, your dreams. It's not something you can mask or dress up with excuses. You either faced it or you didn't. You either gave it everything or you held back. And that truth has consequences. It shapes the future you're building, whether you like it or not. But here's the reality: most people try to avoid the truth. Can be uncomfortable. It can sting. It can challenge everything you want to believe about yourself. That's why many people don't confront it. They lie to themselves, build filters to hide behind, and convince themselves that their effort was enough, that their potential was tapped out, that external circumstances stopped them from achieving. But deep down, they know the truth. It's there, it doesn't lie. The first step is to remove the filter. Take off the armor of excuses and face yourself without distractions. Stop letting your mind create stories that make you feel better about what you've done or failed to do. Stop giving yourself partial credit when your effort wasn't full. The effort you put in is the effort you're going to get out. If you want more, you've got to do more. And there's no way around that. It's easy to tell yourself you're working hard. But the question is, how much harder could you push? How much more could you give if you weren't lying to yourself about how much effort was enough? Most people settle into a routine that feels comfortable enough to fool them into thinking they're doing all they can. But deep down, they know they could be giving more. They know that the person they're showing up as every day is not the one capable of reaching their fullest potential. And that realization is what most people avoid. But the people who break through the noise of mediocrity are the ones who confront that truth head-on. They don't hide behind filters. They face the raw facts of their effort. This is where true growth begins. You can only grow when you're willing to face the brutal truth of your effort, not the truth that's filtered by your comfort zone or your need to feel like you're doing enough. The real truth, the one that doesn't let you off the hook, that doesn't make excuses for you, the one that calls you out for every moment you've coasted, the one that refuses to allow you to lie to yourself about what you could have done better. It's painful, yes. It's hard to accept that you could have pushed harder, that you could have been more focused, more disciplined, more relentless. It's uncomfortable to admit that maybe the reason you haven't reached your goals is because you didn't give it everything. But the sooner you confront that truth, the sooner you'll be able to make changes. The sooner you'll break free from the chains of self-deception that hold you back. If you want to achieve greatness, you must be willing to strip away the filters. You must look at your effort objectively, without bias. Did you put in the hours? Did you focus on the right things? Did you do what needed to be done, even when you didn't feel like it? Or did you cut corners, procrastinate, make excuses, convince yourself it was enough when it wasn't? The truth is your guide to improvement. It's the compass that points you in the direction of success. But only if you let it. Only if you stop lying to yourself. There's an old saying, you can't cheat the grind, and it's true. You can fool others. You can make it seem like you're doing the work, like you're hustling, grinding, pushing yourself. But at the end of the day, the grind knows. It sees everything. It sees the moments you gave less than your best, the moments you hesitated, the moments you stopped when you could have kept going. It knows exactly how hard you worked, and it doesn't reward half effort. It rewards the work that's real, the effort that's pure. You can't expect to get to the next level by lying to yourself about how much you've done. The effort you put in today determines the results you see tomorrow. It's that simple, and it's that hard. But there's power in confronting the truth. When you face your effort without filters, without excuses, without distractions, you begin to see clearly. You see the areas where you can improve. You see the places where you've been holding back. And most importantly, you see the potential that's waiting for you, the potential that's been hidden behind your own lies. You can't grow unless you're willing to face what's real. You can't elevate yourself unless you're willing to acknowledge where you've been falling short. This is how the greatest achievers separate themselves from the pack. They don't deceive themselves. They don't settle for good enough. They confront the truth of their efforts head-on and use it as fuel to push harder, go farther, and be more. The truth of your effort is the key to unlocking your full potential. It's the difference between stagnation and growth. The truth is uncomfortable, yes, but it's also empowering. Once you face it, you can't go back. You can't unsee it. And that's what gives you the power to change. You can't fix what you're not willing to face. But once you face the truth, you can start to transform. You can start to give more, push further, and break down the barriers that have been holding you back. So stop hiding from the truth of your effort. Stop pretending that half effort is enough. Stop telling yourself stories that make you feel good about doing just enough to get by. Take a hard look at what you've actually done and ask yourself, is this the best I can do? Is this the most I can give? If the answer is no, then it's time to step up. It's time to stop pretending and start acting with full commitment, full focus, and full effort. The truth of your effort is a mirror that reflects your potential, and the more you confront it, the clearer that reflection becomes. You'll see what's possible when you stop holding yourself back, when you stop settling for mediocrity, when you stop lying to yourself about what you can achieve. The truth of your effort is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. It's the wake-up call you need to start living with purpose, intensity, and focus. So look in the mirror. What does your effort truly look like? Don't hide behind excuses or filters. Don't try to sugarcoat the reality. See yourself for who you are and where you're at. And then ask yourself, what do I need to change? What am I willing to do today to make sure that tomorrow I'm giving everything? The truth of your effort is the first step towards greatness. Don't ignore it. Don't run from it. Embrace it and use it to fuel your transformation. Chapter 7. Build a system that makes quitting feel impossible. Quitting should never be an option. Not when you've set a goal. Not when you've made a commitment to yourself. Not when you've already made the decision to move forward, no matter what. Too often, we allow ourselves to entertain thoughts of quitting when things get tough, when the pressure rises, or when the results don't come fast enough. But what if quitting wasn't even on the table? What if you could build a system for yourself so strong, so relentless, that the very idea of quitting becomes laughable? Building that kind of system isn't a simple task. It requires intentional effort, consistency, and discipline, but the payoff is priceless. You'll reach a point where the system you've created for yourself is so ingrained in your life that quitting feels impossible. It's not just about pushing through discomfort or powering through challenges. It's about creating a structure, a daily routine, and a set of habits that make it harder to quit than to keep going. When your system becomes the foundation of your daily life, quitting becomes an anomaly, not a choice. The first step in building a system that makes quitting impossible is to establish non-negotiables. These are the commitments you make to yourself that no matter what, you will stick to them. These are not things you try to do. These are things you do regardless of how you feel. It's about setting standards for yourself that don't bend under pressure. For example, if your goal is to exercise every morning, it becomes non-negotiable. There are no excuses. If you're tired, if you're busy, if you're feeling unmotivated, you still do it. You don't allow your emotions or circumstances to dictate your actions. The commitment is made, and it's a promise you will keep. Non-negotiables are the backbone of a system that makes quitting impossible. When you have a list of things that you will never give up on, you create a life where quitting simply doesn't fit in. Every time you show up and follow through on a non-negotiable, you reinforce the habit of not quitting. Each victory, no matter how small, strengthens your resolve, and eventually, it becomes second nature. You won't even consider quitting, because you've built a system where consistency is more important than motivation. But non-negotiables alone aren't enough. You need to add accountability. You need to surround yourself with people who will remind you of your commitments when you start to falter. They don't have to be pushing you every minute of every day, but they should be people who will call you out when you're slipping. Whether it's a friend, a coach, or a mentor, accountability partners play a critical role in creating a system that makes quitting feel impossible. The key here is choosing the right people, those who will challenge you, not enable you. They should be the type of people who believe in your potential more than you believe in it yourself. They should be able to remind you why you started when your motivation fades. They should be the ones who hold you accountable, even when it feels uncomfortable. When you make your goals public and share them with others, you increase the pressure to follow through. You no longer just have your own commitment to uphold, you have the commitment to those who are holding you accountable. Your system must also include regular progress check-ins. Without measurement, it's too easy to lose sight of how far you've come. Progress tracking is the key to maintaining momentum. Whether you track your progress through a journal, an app, or a simple checklist, you need to have a way of visually seeing how much effort you're putting in and what results you're getting. This can be incredibly motivating. It helps you see that even when you feel like you're not moving forward, you are. It also allows you to identify areas where you may need to adjust your approach. When you see the fruits of your labor, it strengthens your commitment to continue. There's another layer to this system that makes quitting feel impossible, and that's the concept of making failure difficult. If you want to build a system that guarantees success, you need to make failure harder than success. This might sound counterintuitive, but it works. The easier it is to fail, the more likely you are to quit. You need to create obstacles that prevent you from backing out of your commitments. For example, if your goal is to wake up at 5 a.m. every day, put your alarm clock across the room so that you physically have to get out of bed to turn it off. If your goal is to stop eating junk food, throw away all unhealthy snacks in your house so that you're not tempted. The key is making the default behavior, the one that requires the least effort, the one that aligns with your goal. By making failure inconvenient, you drastically reduce the chances of quitting. The more steps you have to take to fail, the less likely you are to follow through on those actions. The system becomes built around making the right choice the easiest one to make, so when temptation strikes, you don't even have the option to quit. Your environment supports your success, making the path to quitting far more difficult. Additionally, building a system that makes quitting feel impossible requires a deep focus on routines. Routines create structure and discipline. When your day is built around routines, it becomes almost automatic to show up and do the work. You don't need to rely on motivation or willpower to get things done. It's just part of your daily life. It's the small everyday actions that stack up to create huge results. Whether it's your morning routine, your work routine, or your evening routine, consistency in your habits is what drives long-term success. And when your routine is dialed in, quitting doesn't even make sense anymore. You don't have time to think about it because you're already in motion. Another critical component of a system that prevents quitting is managing your energy, not just your time. People often think that success is about doing more, working harder, and pushing themselves beyond their limits. But in reality, it's about managing your energy effectively. You need to build a system that supports sustainable energy levels so you don't burn out. This means prioritizing rest, recovery, and self-care. It means knowing when to push and when to step back. When you manage your energy, you can stay focused and productive over the long haul without the risk of crashing and burning. Ultimately, creating a system that makes quitting feel impossible comes down to consistency and commitment. It's about building a life that makes it easier to show up and do the work than it is to quit. And that's the real power of a system. It's not about motivation, it's about making success inevitable. When you have a strong enough system in place, quitting is no longer an option. It becomes something that's so far removed from your mindset that it's unthinkable. So stop letting quitting be an option. Stop building excuses into your routine. Instead, create a system that makes quitting the hardest thing you can do. Build non-negotiables, create accountability, track your progress, make failure difficult, and establish routines that set you up for success. When you do, you'll find that quitting becomes an impossibility, and success becomes your default mode of operation. Chapter 8. Cut the mental noise that steals your energy daily. The mind is a powerful tool, but when it's cluttered with distractions, doubts, and unnecessary noise, it can become your greatest enemy. Every day we're bombarded by thoughts that drain our energy, confuse our purpose, and keep us from focusing on what truly matters. This constant mental chatter steals our attention and eats away at our potential. It's not just an inconvenience, it's a silent thief, robbing us of our ability to achieve greatness. The question is, how can you silence this noise? How can you create a mental environment that serves you rather than drains you? The answer lies in mastering the art of cutting out the mental noise that steals your energy daily. It's about taking control of your mind and learning to filter out the thoughts, distractions, and worries that aren't serving your highest good. When you do this, you unlock your ability to focus, to perform at your best, and to accomplish more than you ever thought possible. The first step in cutting out mental noise is to become aware of it. Most of the time, we don't even realize how noisy our minds are. We're so accustomed to the constant stream of thoughts, worries about the future, regrets from the past, and endless what-ifs that we think it's normal. But if you take a moment to notice, you'll realize how much of your mental energy is being wasted. You might be thinking about things that happened hours ago, or imagining scenarios that haven't even happened yet. This is where the mental noise begins. Start by observing your thoughts without judgment. Notice how many of them are rooted in fear, doubt, or uncertainty. Recognize how often your mind jumps from one thing to another without any real focus. This awareness is the first step toward taking control. Once you understand how the noise is affecting you, you can begin to quiet it. One of the most powerful tools you can use to cut the mental noise is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, without judgment. It's about training your mind to focus on the here and now, rather than getting lost in the past or future. When you practice mindfulness, you teach yourself to recognize when your mind is spiraling into unnecessary thoughts, and you gently bring it back to the present moment. Mindfulness can be practiced in many ways. It can be as simple as focusing on your breath for a few minutes, paying attention to the sensations in your body, or even just observing your thoughts without reacting to them. The key is to create moments of stillness in your day where you can reset and recalibrate your mind. This simple practice can help you clear away the mental clutter and create a sense of peace and focus. Another way to cut the mental noise is to eliminate distractions from your environment. Your external environment plays a huge role in the state of your mind. If you're surrounded by chaos, noise, or clutter, it's much harder to think clearly. Take a look at your physical space and ask yourself, does it support your mental clarity? If not, it's time to make some changes. Start by decluttering your space. Clean your workspace, organize your surroundings, and create an environment that fosters focus and calm. When your environment is neat and orderly, it sends a message to your brain that you can focus on what's important. The less physical clutter you have, the less mental clutter you'll experience. This is especially true in today's digital age, where we're constantly bombarded by notifications, emails, and distractions from our phones. Try turning off notifications, setting specific times to check emails, and creating a digital environment that supports your goals. Limiting your exposure to negative or distracting information is another powerful way to cut out mental noise. Whether it's the news, social media, or conversations with negative people, all of these sources can add unnecessary stress and worry to your mind. When you consume negative or fear-based content, you're feeding your mind with more noise. It's important to be selective about the information you allow into your brain. Create boundaries for yourself. Set limits on how much time you spend consuming media or engaging in conversations that drain your energy. Instead, choose to surround yourself with positivity, growth-oriented content, and people who lift you up. This shift in your external input will help you create a quieter, more focused mind. You can also replace negative influences with more constructive ones. For example, instead of watching the news first thing in the morning, try reading a book that inspires you, listening to a podcast that motivates you, or engaging in a practice that centers you. But perhaps the most powerful way to cut the mental noise is through the practice of discipline. Discipline is the act of choosing to focus on what matters most and blocking out everything else. It's about creating a routine that aligns with your goals and values and sticking to it no matter what. When you're disciplined in your actions, you naturally cut out distractions. You become so focused on your mission that the noise around you no longer has the power to pull you off course. Start by building a routine that supports your priorities. Focus on what you need to do each day to move toward your goals and eliminate activities that are not aligned with your purpose. The more disciplined you are with your time and energy, the less room there is for unnecessary thoughts and distractions. Over time, this creates a powerful sense of mental clarity because you're no longer scattering your energy on things that don't matter. One of the biggest contributors to mental noise is the constant inner dialogue we have with ourselves. We often question our decisions, doubt our abilities, and criticize our actions. This self-talk can be incredibly draining and counterproductive. If you want to cut out the mental noise, you need to change the way you speak to yourself. Start by becoming aware of your self-talk. Pay attention to the words you use when you think about yourself and your goals. Are they empowering or disempowering? Are they supportive or critical? Once you recognize the negative patterns in your self-talk, you can start to replace them with more positive, constructive thoughts. Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, focus on what you're doing right. Instead of doubting your abilities, remind yourself of your strengths and past successes. By changing your inner dialogue, you take back control of your mental energy. There's also power in silence. In a world that's constantly demanding our attention, silence can feel uncomfortable at first, but silence is one of the most powerful tools for cutting mental noise. It's in the silence that we find clarity. It's in the quiet moments that we reconnect with ourselves and hear our inner wisdom. Take time each day to sit in silence, whether through meditation, deep breathing, or simply being alone with your thoughts. This practice allows you to quiet the mental chatter and reconnect with your true self. Cutting mental noise is not a one-time fix. It's a daily practice, a conscious choice you must make every moment. It's about recognizing when your mind starts to wander into unproductive or unnecessary thoughts and bringing it back to the present. It's about creating an environment that supports your mental clarity. It's about setting boundaries with the information and people you allow into your life. And it's about choosing discipline and focus over distractions. As you start to implement these practices into your life, you'll notice a shift in your mental energy. You'll feel more focused, more at ease, and more aligned with your purpose. The noise will quiet down, and in its place you'll discover a powerful sense of clarity and peace. Your mind will no longer be a chaotic battleground. It will become a tool you can use to create the life you want. So commit today to cutting out the mental noise that drains your energy. Take control of your thoughts, your environment, and your habits. When you do, you'll unlock the full potential of your mind, and the world will become a much clearer, more focused place. Chapter 9. Attack your hardest task before the day controls you. The hardest tasks are often the ones we put off the longest. We procrastinate, we avoid them, and we make excuses to delay their completion. But the truth is, these tasks are often the ones that carry the most weight, the most significance, and the most potential to move us forward. Every day we wake up with a list of things to do. Some tasks are easy and require little mental effort, while others are difficult and demanding. It's easy to slip into the habit of tackling the easier tasks first, but in doing so, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to tackle the most important challenges head-on. The key to mastering your day, your productivity, and your goals is to attack the hardest task first. It may sound counterintuitive, but it's the most effective way to build momentum, sharpen your focus, and ensure that your day isn't hijacked by distractions. When you wake up in the morning, your energy and mental clarity are at their peak. This is the best time to dive into your hardest task before the day has a chance to control you. Why is this so important? Because once the day starts to unfold, the demands on your time and attention begin to pile up. You'll receive messages, emails, calls, and requests that can easily divert your focus from what's most important. By the time you finish tackling all of the smaller tasks that don't really matter, you'll find that you have little time or energy left for the bigger challenges that can move you forward in a meaningful way. Starting with your hardest task isn't just about efficiency, it's about setting a tone for the day. It's about telling yourself that you're in control, that you're not going to let distractions dictate your actions. When you start your day by conquering the hardest challenge in front of you, everything else feels easier. You've already taken the most difficult step, and the rest of your tasks seem less daunting in comparison. But how do you approach this? How do you ensure that you tackle your hardest task without procrastinating or getting overwhelmed by its magnitude? The first step is to embrace the discomfort. The hardest tasks are often the ones that make us feel uncomfortable or uncertain. We hesitate because we're not sure where to start or because we fear failure. But it's this discomfort that signals growth. It's a sign that you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone and into a space where real progress happens. Instead of running from the discomfort, lean into it. Recognize that feeling uneasy is a natural part of the process and use it as fuel to keep moving forward. The longer you delay the difficult task, the harder it becomes. But when you face it head-on, you'll find that it's often not as scary as it seems. Once you take that first step, the rest of the task becomes more manageable. Another key to attacking your hardest task is to break it down into smaller, more manageable steps. Often, we avoid tackling big challenges because they feel overwhelming. The task may seem too complex or too time-consuming, and we don't know where to begin. But when you break the task down into smaller, more specific actions, it becomes much easier to approach. Start with the first step. Focus on making progress, not perfection. Every small action you take gets you closer to completing the task. For example, if your hardest task is writing a report, instead of thinking about the entire report at once, break it down into sections. Start with the introduction, then move on to the first section, then the second, and so on. As you complete each section, you'll feel a sense of accomplishment that propels you to keep going. By the time you've finished the last section, you'll have a complete report in front of you. It's no longer an insurmountable challenge, it's a series of smaller tasks that you've already conquered. This approach not only makes the task more manageable, but also helps you maintain your momentum. By completing each small step, you build confidence and keep moving forward. This sense of progress is crucial because it keeps you focused on the bigger picture. Each small victory is a reminder that you're capable of handling more than you realize. It's this cumulative effect that helps you tackle bigger and bigger challenges over time. One of the biggest obstacles to attacking your hardest task is the fear of failure. We often hesitate to take on difficult tasks because we're afraid of not succeeding. But the truth is, failure is a necessary part of growth. Every time you try something and fail, you learn valuable lessons that make you stronger and more capable. Failure is not something to avoid, it's something to embrace. When you approach your hardest task, do so with the understanding that failure is not the end. It's simply a step in the process. Every successful person has failed countless times, but they kept going. They didn't let fear or failure stop them, instead they used it as a learning experience. When you adopt this mindset, you free yourself from the pressure of perfection. You give yourself permission to make mistakes and learn from them, which is essential for progress. Another powerful technique for attacking your hardest task is to create a sense of urgency. When you allow yourself to procrastinate or delay, you give your mind the opportunity to talk you out of taking action. You might convince yourself that you have plenty of time or that it's not that important. But the truth is, if you don't create a sense of urgency, you'll continue to put off the task until it becomes a source of stress and anxiety. One way to create urgency is to set a deadline for yourself. Even if there's no external deadline, give yourself one. Tell yourself that you must complete the task by a specific time and hold yourself accountable. This adds pressure, which helps you overcome procrastination and get to work. Another way to create urgency is to remind yourself of the consequences of not taking action. Think about what will happen if you don't tackle the task today. Will it delay your progress? Will it cause more stress in the future? When you connect your actions to the larger picture, it becomes easier to see the importance of taking action now. Once you've made the decision to tackle your hardest task, it's crucial to stay focused. Distractions will inevitably arise, but it's up to you to stay on track. Turn off your phone, Close unnecessary tabs on your computer and create an environment that supports deep work. Focus is a muscle that you can strengthen over time. The more you practice focusing on one task at a time, the easier it becomes to stay in the zone and make significant progress. Finally, remember that attacking your hardest task is not about getting everything perfect. It's about making progress and moving forward. Perfection is an illusion. The goal is to keep improving and refining as you go. As long as you're taking consistent action, you're on the right path. When you approach your hardest task with this mindset, you'll find that it's easier to start and harder to quit. In the end, the ability to attack your hardest task before the day controls you is a skill that will serve you for the rest of your life. It's a practice that builds discipline, resilience, and focus. When you start your day with intention and tackle the most difficult challenge first, you set the stage for a productive and successful day. You build momentum, and that momentum propels you forward, making it easier to tackle the next challenge and the next. Over time, you'll find that your hardest tasks no longer feel as daunting because you've learned how to approach them with confidence, clarity, and action. So the next time you wake up with a list of things to do, make the decision to attack your hardest task first. Don't wait, don't hesitate, dive into the discomfort, break it down into manageable steps, and embrace the journey of growth and progress. By doing so, you'll gain control over your day, your energy, and your success. Chapter 10. Refuse to stop when nobody is watching your effort. Success is forged in the unseen hours, the moments when no one is watching, no one is applauding, and no one is there to cheer you on. This is where the true strength of character is built. The temptation to stop when there is no external validation is powerful. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that if no one notices, then it doesn't matter. But that's exactly when it matters most. Your effort in these silent, unrecognized moments determines your future success more than anything else. When you're working in solitude, with no audience to witness your struggle, you face a decision. Do you push through the difficulty and continue to give your best, or do you ease off because no one is there to appreciate it? This moment of choice defines the trajectory of your growth and success. The true test of commitment is not when the world is watching, but when the world is completely unaware of what you're doing. This is when you build real resilience, the kind that cannot be easily shaken. People often make the mistake of equating effort with recognition. We live in a world that thrives on acknowledgement. Social media, for example, is a platform where validation is instant, where a like or a comment can serve as an immediate boost to our self-worth. But the reality is that life doesn't always work that way. There are countless hours spent in the quiet pursuit of goals, in the grind that no one sees. The difference between those who achieve greatness and those who don't often comes down to whether or not they can continue when there's no applause, no cheers, and no one keeping them accountable. We live in a culture that celebrates visible progress, the flashy moments, the milestones that others can see and applaud. This makes it easy to fall into the trap of thinking that if you're not getting recognized, your efforts aren't worthwhile. But there's power in the quiet moments. There's value in doing the work when nobody is watching. The truth is that the real work is done in these moments, because this is where you prove to yourself what you're made of. It's in the solitude that your commitment to your goals is tested. Can you keep going when it feels like no one notices? Can you push through even when it seems like no one cares? The reason why so many people fail is because they stop when the external validation disappears. They stop working, stop trying, and stop giving their best when they're not getting the applause they expect. The real key to long-term success, however, lies in your ability to keep going regardless of recognition. If you can keep showing up day after day, Even when nobody is there to watch, you will eventually outlast everyone else. Because true success isn't about impressing others, it's about pushing your limits and proving to yourself that you can persist when the world is silent. Consider the athletes who rise before the sun to train, the writers who spend hours working on their craft, or the entrepreneurs who sacrifice weekends and nights to build their business. No one is there to cheer them on in those moments. No one is watching. But they continue to push forward because they know that every hour spent in isolation is an investment in their future. It's easy to stay motivated when the spotlight is on you, but it's in the darkness that your true strength is developed. It's in the hidden hours when no one is watching that you build the habits and resilience that will carry you to the top. Building a system that makes quitting feel impossible is crucial. This system isn't based on external motivations like validation or rewards. It's based on internal drive, on a commitment to excellence that is not contingent on recognition. It's about establishing a mindset where quitting is not an option. When you operate from this mindset, you will keep pushing forward, regardless of whether anyone sees you or not. This is where real success begins, when you refuse to stop, even when there's no applause. It's about having a fire inside that can't be extinguished by external factors. It's about developing a deep sense of pride in your work, regardless of who notices. One way to cultivate this internal drive is by setting standards for yourself that are not dependent on others. Create goals that matter to you and commit to achieving them for your own sake. When your motivation comes from within, you become less susceptible to external circumstances. You're not working for the applause of others, you're working because you believe in the process, you believe in the mission, and you believe in yourself. This mindset will keep you moving forward, even when the world doesn't seem to care. But let's be clear, this isn't always easy. There will be times when you feel like throwing in the towel, when you question whether it's worth it to keep going. The key is to embrace those moments of doubt, not as signs that you should quit, but as opportunities to strengthen your resolve. The doubts you face when no one is watching are the same doubts that will challenge you when you do start to get recognition. If you can conquer them in silence, you will be much more prepared for the challenges that come with success. Refusing to stop when nobody is watching doesn't mean you never face setbacks. On the contrary, it means that when setbacks happen, you don't let them derail you. It's easy to keep going when things are going well, but the true test comes when things get hard. This is when your dedication is truly put to the test. This is where you prove that you're willing to do whatever it takes to achieve your goals. Whether it's getting up early to work on your project, staying late to refine your skills, or pushing through when your body or mind wants to quit, it's in these moments that you build the character that will carry you through the toughest challenges. The truth is, we all